Good morning. Happy Easter to everyone. Here we are again with empty chairs pretty much, but thanks to 2 or 3, 4 people that are here today. And as we're live streaming again, as we will continue to do through April and probably into May, we'll have to see what happens with what the governor decides to do. But everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing, so that's a good thing. So hopefully we'll be back here sooner than later. So I want to wish everybody a happy Easter. Again, there's really no announcements. I just want to tell everybody again that if there's anything that you need, don't hesitate to call or let one of the board members know so we can take care of that for you. Anyhow, I'm going to turn the service over after I have a special video I'm going to play before service starts. So I'm going to get on with that. But in the meantime, Marita and Doug's going to bring us a lovely message, and Julie and Rick will be playing some great music. So hold on just a second while I get this video going. Let me turn the microphone.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome to our special Valley Community Church Easter service. I want to welcome all of our members and any guests that we might have on the internet also. Thank you for the privilege of being in your home today. As our normal practice is to say our statement of being, for those of you who don't know this, this is our message of living. This is what we believe in. And if you do know it, please recite after me now. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am the individualized expression of God, and am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. Welcome. Julie.
Thank you so much, Julie. And welcome to all of you who are with us today, this wonderful Easter morning. I'm to do a healing meditation and then the Lord's Prayer. So, shall we get still and give ourselves time to take a deep breath and just relax as we exhale. And our faces and jaws and shoulders, arms and hands, let them relax. Get heavy and still, warm, comfortable. And begin to ponder for just a few moments on what that resurrection day so long ago, what it has done in this world. How remarkably it has changed the world for the better. Have there been excesses? Have there been very, very bad times? Yes. But when we consider the blessings that it has brought to every corner of the world, the philosophy of Jesus, the words of love, the words of wisdom, peace, truth, we can but rejoice and give thanks. How important this day, so long ago, it has been. And the manner in which it has worked its gentle magic throughout the lives, the consciousness, the interaction of human beings. For this certainly we give thanks. And we give thanks for what Jesus' message has brought into our own lives. Our seeing the world in an entirely different way than it would have been without those words, without those acts, without his sacrifice, without his triumph. We're grateful for ourselves and so many millions of people around the world. In the next few moments, shall we just lean back into that gratitude, that longer view of how his life, his words, his sacrifice, his love has impacted our own lives and the lives of so many people that we know. Peace, gratitude, a deeper view, perhaps a deeper inner promise to ourselves that I will bring this message, Jesus' message of love and oneness with God. I'm going to bring it into so much more of my daily and moment by moment thinking. We call it omnipresence. Others call it something else. Oh my. But what a blessing it has been. In the next 90 seconds, shall we all give thanks for Jesus' consciousness, his spiritual talents, which were extraordinary. Whatever it took to bring resurrection into his being, the capacity, the wisdom, the understanding that permitted that to happen. Let us spend just a few moments thinking, being grateful, celebrating Jesus' resurrection. Come unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, and with greatest appreciation, we accept that invitation. It is an ongoing invitation to share those burdens with God and see how the weight lightens. With gratitude, we accept. We accept. Amen. Now, shall we say the Lord's Prayer together? This is the translation from the Aramaic. Our Father, who is everywhere, your name is sacred, your kingdom is come, your will is throughout the earth, even as it is throughout the universe. You give us our needful bread from day to day, and you forgive us our offenses, even as we forgive our offenders. And you let us not enter into materialism, but you separate us from error. Because yours are the kingdom, the power, and the song and praise from all ages, throughout all ages, sealed in faith, trust, and truth. Now, Doug will join us.
It was a Friday, some 2,000 years ago. The crowd was chanting, "Crucify him, crucify him." Jesus had been brought to Pontius Pilate, who was serving as the governor of Judea. Pontius Pilate didn't want to have anything to do with him. He couldn't see where this man did no wrong, so he sent him to Herod Antipas. And Herod kind of thought he was interesting. He wanted to see him perform a miracle, but he could find no wrong with him, so he sent him back to Pontius Pilate. And again, Pilate thought, well, I really don't see anything wrong with him. I really don't want to do anything here. Yet the crowd still yelled, "Crucify him, crucify him, crucify him." This was about 6:30 in the morning that Friday, some 2,000 years ago. 7:30, 8 o'clock, he was carrying the cross with the help of Simon. With that fateful walk. At 9 o'clock, or roundabout, he was nailed to the cross and hung there. And above his head they had put, in 3 languages, so everyone would know, they had put, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." They wanted everyone to know who this was so they could mock him, ridicule him, humiliate him, embarrass him. You see, you're almost stripped naked in front of everyone. And he was spit upon, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." At this time, in Luke 23, it said, Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He's still hanging on the cross. It's 12 o'clock midday. The sun disappears. The earth is dark in that region. People are looking around, I'm sure, frightened. Jesus is still hanging on the cross. He's dying of exhaustion and asphyxiation. You see, when you're on the cross, you don't get enough oxygen. You're dying of oxygen deprivation. Fluids build around your heart. It's a horrible, horrible death, the crucifixion. Very interesting to note about the crucifixion, there was a Hebrew historian named Josephus who wrote about it, said there must have been hundreds, even thousands of crucifixions. I don't know about that. I do know this. They've only found 2 in all of our discoveries and all of our archaeological digs and so forth. They've only found 2. One in 1968 in northeastern Jerusalem. They found a skeleton that had been crucified, the individual. And in 2007, they found just an ankle of someone who had been crucified. It was such a horrible death. I don't know how commonplace it really was. But Jesus was hanging there that day, around 12, dying. And this is when he said these words, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani." And so many sermons have been written about those Aramaic words. So many scholars have pored over those words. In English translation, it's only 9 little words. My God, why have you forsaken me?" My God, why have you forsaken me? After all looking into it, all the sermons on this, they've come to the conclusion, the consensus, that it was a cry of agony, a cry of "please help me." Jesus is still hanging on the cross. I will make up the timeline here, approximation, about 2:45 in the afternoon. In John 19, Jesus says, "It is finished." Closer to 3, in Luke 23, Jesus says, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And he takes his last breath and he dies. And as he's dying, the earth trembles. And there's an earthquake in that area. And it splits the veil in the temple from top to bottom. And you know today you can go to the Dead Sea, and geologists, archaeologists have looked, and they can go back and look at the sediment in the Dead Sea and see they've carbon dated it between 26 and 36 AD, a 6.5 magnitude earthquake. We think Jesus died somewhere around April 3rd to April 30th, 33 AD. The crust of the earth does not tell a falsehood. They took Jesus' body, put him in a borrowed tomb. Mary Magdalene and others, I'm sure, did not, they witnessed it. I'm sure they did not sleep much that Saturday, probably didn't eat, all upset, all worried. That Sunday morning came, Easter Sunday, they probably got up early. It was Mary Magdalene and Mary, mother of James. They had spices with them. They were going to prepare the body for burial. And as they got to the tomb, they were talking among themselves, how are we going to roll the stone away? I mean, it's heavy. It might take 3 or 4 men. How are we going to do this? And as they approached, the stone was rolled aside, and they looked in, and the body of Jesus was not there. What have they done with the Lord? And they ran, and they came upon Simon Peter and the other disciple. And they said, what have they done with the Lord? Where have they moved his body? And with that, Simon Peter and the other disciple ran towards the tomb. The other disciple beat him there first and bent down to look in, because you had to bend down and look in. And Simon Peter looked also, and the tomb was empty except for the burial cloths. The tomb is empty. I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm going to come right back to that empty tomb in a moment, okay? I want to tell you about a man in Southwest Virginia. He's a nature lover. He loves to sit on his back porch. He's an amateur nature lover. He loves to sit on his back porch, and he looks down here at the left-hand side of his backyard, and he's got some milkweed plants growing. And over on the right-hand side, he can look and he sees the eastern bud, red bud trees. They're just beautiful in his yard. He probably has a few dogwoods planted also. And he loves to take his coffee there in the morning. These beautiful spring mornings. And one day he's taking his coffee there, and he sees on the milkweed plants, he sees the telltale sign of cocoons, caterpillars turning into monarch butterflies. And so he goes to the edge of his garden there, and he looks, and he sees one that's having a very, very difficult time. One caterpillar is having a horrible time getting out of its cocoon. And being a nature lover, he runs into the house and gets a pair of scissors and brings it back and makes just a little tiny cut into that cocoon. It wasn't enough. The butterfly could not come out yet. That elongated body could not come out. So he cuts it just a little bit more to make it easier. And with that, the butterfly came out. Its wings were still wet, and its wings were wrinkled. The butterfly, you see, will never fly. Never fly. What our nature lover did not know is the difficulty and the struggle of the caterpillar turning into a butterfly, and that elongated butterfly coming out, that difficulty of coming out of that cocoon, trying with all of its might, is as it comes out, it unfurls its wing, and the difficulty of it causes fluids to rush into his wings. And once the wings dry, the butterfly can fly. Without that difficulty and without that challenge, the butterfly never will fly. Oh, I'm not saying what's going on now in our lives, this great difficulty and this great challenge. I'm not saying it's something we wanted or need, but I do know it's going to change us. I do know that. And I do know we can let it change us in a positive nature. I do know that. This past week, around Tuesday, Wednesday, and I said this aloud to myself. I said, you know, I'm tired of all this. I'm tired of it all. Tired of it. I'm going to take that, put that in that dark tomb. I'm tired of turning the TV on and seeing the red screen. I'm going to put that in the tomb too. And I'm tired of that basketball shape of the virus with the prongs coming out of it. Tired of looking at it. I think it's healthy to be tired of it. And I'm tired of worrying about people's health. And I'm tired of worrying about mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and grandparents. I'm tired of it. Put that in the tomb. And I'm tired of people being worried about their jobs, laid off, can't make the rent payment, can't make the mortgage payment. I'm tired of it. Put that in the tomb too. And I'll tell you this, all that difficulty, all those challenges, all that anxiousness, all that worry, we can put that in that dark tomb, because that is not where Jesus stayed, and that is not where we stay. Jesus walked into the light, God's love, and that's where we stay. All that other is in the dark tomb. But we are in the light of God's love. Jesus served as our light way shower. We stand in God's light and in His love, and that is where we will be. And that is where we'll be found. We are never separated. Forever and ever and ever. At this time, Dr. Wiggins Marita is going to deepen our Sunday service just a bit for us.
Well, the title of this is Fear Not. You know, every year throughout Holy Week, we focus on these epic events that occurred in Jesus' life. Palm Sunday and the Last Supper, and his arrest, his trial, his torture, crucifixion, and finally resurrection. These are the things we focus on. Today, though, what I thought would be interesting was to take another look at the Holy Week, but this time through the eyes and through the attitudes of his disciples. They were the ones who carried on the work of the Master the rest of their lives. Tuesday began after that triumphal entry into Jerusalem on Monday. And the apostles thought, oh, things couldn't possibly couldn't be any better than they are right now. Everybody's so excited about Jesus coming to Jerusalem. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Jesus then had tremendous success in the great temple. He was teaching these people, and they were rapt with attention, focusing on everything he said, taking it all in. And then there were the healings. Multitudes of people came to him for healing. And people who had been crippled, blinded from birth were changed. They were made whole again. So many people were healed, and so many others were so impressed with what he was doing. They all loved him. They honored him. They respected him. They couldn't have been more attentive, more eager to hear what he had to say, to be around him. By late evening on Thursday, however, Jesus and the apostle had enjoyed this wonderful meal in the upper room. They'd sung a hymn together, and now, after a short walk, they were just sitting and relaxing and enjoying this nearby garden, and taking it in the twilight and the evening. They were content, peaceful. They were some of them sitting with their backs up against the trees, and others just kind of stretched out in the grass, beginning to nod off and doze, and they were just happy, relaxed. When all of a sudden, torches began coming up, and soldiers, and they woke up, they were astonished. They were on their feet immediately, but after just a few moments of skirmishing, Jesus was arrested and pulled away. They were shocked. They were badly frightened too, and they ran for their lives. They're going to be arrested. Jesus was arrested. Maybe they were going to come after them too. Only Peter, he was the only one who hung back in the shadows and slowly, carefully followed the arresting crowd. We are not sure where the disciples went. Perhaps they congregated back in the upper room, or perhaps they went to some other large room, because there were at least 10, 11, perhaps many more of them. We don't know. But Jerusalem was far from home. They couldn't go home. So they stayed together, hiding, frightened. Friday dawned, or rather dragged on. It had already dawned, my goodness. And they had no idea what had happened to Jesus until about the 6th hour. That was around noon on Friday. And then someone knocked on the door and whispered the words. Jesus had been crucified. They were horrified. Their master dying on a cross. And would the Sanhedrin be coming after them next? Would they be hunted down? Would they be tortured? The Sanhedrin couldn't crucify them, but they could certainly torture them to death. The fear and the grief in that room became palpable. To make things worse, a sunny morning developed into a sky that darkened and darkened and darkened as if to match their mood. At the 9th hour, 3 o'clock, it had become very, very dark, and they began to feel the floor under their feet tremble. They didn't think too much about it, because Jerusalem was very close to an earthquake zone, and people periodically, sometimes catastrophically, felt the effects of earthquakes. It was just one more thing to add to their misery, their grief, and their deep fear about what was going to happen next. They weren't standing at the foot of the cross when Jesus died. They weren't there to help Joseph take the body of Jesus down from the cross, or hurriedly leave his body in a nearby cave tomb. They weren't there. It was just this group of women who'd followed Jesus from Galilee, the ones who had always tended to his needs and who were always there, but they were standing afar. They weren't standing close. You see, men were crucified naked. The women could not get close out of respect. Saturday, the blackest day of their lives, filled with tears, mourning, and this overwhelming fear. It just dragged on hour after hour. That day, it was interminable. A restless, for many probably, sleepless night passed, Saturday night. But before dawn, there was this soft, persistent knock at the door. Various women followers, at least part of the group that had stood afar, part of those women had observed where Joseph had carried Jesus' body, and before dawn on Sunday morning, they had gone to that cave tomb and they brought spices to anoint Jesus' body. That was the custom, and they were going to follow it. That huge stone, though, that was covering the mouth of the tomb had inexplicably been pulled away, had rolled to the side. The various versions of what the women saw and reported to the apostles always include an empty tomb, angels in shining white garments, all saying, "Fear not, Jesus has risen." Various apostles, hearing this report, hurried to the tomb. They found it empty, just the grave cloths left behind. But they couldn't bring themselves to dare to believe what the women were reporting, or the message of the angels. Fear not, he lives. Later, though, came the report from the two who had walked to Emmaus, and they'd been joined by a man, somehow slightly familiar, who talked about the Bible and how Jesus had been predicted through many of the apostles, not the apostles, the prophets. They had gone in and broken bread with him, and then when he blessed that bread, all of a sudden they realized it was Jesus. And then he disappeared. Well, he was alive. And they hurried as fast as they could back to Jerusalem to report it to the others' followers. By then, Jesus had appeared to Mary and to Peter as well. But it was really only when Jesus himself appeared to the whole group and said to them, "Peace be with you. It is I. Do not be afraid." Only then did they dare to believe, really believe, that he had risen from the dead. First the angel came with a message, "Fear not." And then Jesus said the same thing, "Fear not." There was nothing to fear, no matter what the Pharisees did. Jesus had risen from the dead. Life is eternal. Despite how things look on the surface, divine order is already established. God reigns, and good is inevitably the result. Despite the fact that we're removed from this singular moment in human history by something around 2,000 years, the truths revealed at that time are equally important, central, at any time. To this moment, that we're experiencing right now, we hear validity, we hear truth echoing back to us. If we can really hear, that is, comprehend these truths, we are going to be able to live without fear, no matter what seems to threaten us, no matter what temporary adjustments we have had to make in our lives. For the disciples, there was that awful, cloying fear that the Sanhedrin would come after them, would arrest them, would torture them. For us today, so many people are deeply fearful of the medical threats that are impacting perhaps neighbors, hopefully not friends or loved ones, but other people in our hometowns. And they fear for themselves, understandably. There have been the loss of jobs and being confined at home or having to work from home, trying to be teachers to their children, watching the pandemic's effect on the stock market. All this so greatly raises our anxiety levels about what's going on right now. But wait, life isn't always what it seems to be. In the midst of so-called chaos, God still reigns. Good still reigns. From this very unusual but trying time for us, unsuspected positive changes can result. Indeed, in our forced isolation, what powerful insights can come to us? What transforming spiritual growth can result from that forced isolation? How better to celebrate Jesus' resurrection than to fear not and to resurrect in ourselves a new view of how our presence, our positive thoughts, our prayers and acts now are indispensable to the unfoldment of God's good, God's newness to so many others. Right now, in our world today, fear not. Fear not. A moment to meditation. We release what has caused tension and anxiety. We let it go. And know that divine order is already established in our experience, in our homes, in especially our minds and feelings. God reigns. Good is coming forth newly. And for this, and so much more, we give deep thanks. Amen. Ordinarily, we would gather in a circle and have pieces of pita bread and grape juice and share a communion service with one another on our Easter Sunday morning service. But today, of course, we're not able to do that. However, I would like to suggest that we can have a spiritual communion service. And that will require your imagination just a little bit, but certainly your attention and your feeling, your focus on the feelings that can come with communion, union, a sense of the presence of God. So, right now, would you close your eyes and relax shoulders, face, back, relax the body. And just bring your hands together, making a little bowl, as it were. For right now, we begin our spiritual communion service by knowing that God is omnipresent. God is everywhere, within, without, and God in fullness, in wisdom, understanding, peace, love, joy, all power, all knowledge, is both within and around us. And we, in turn, offer our hands, as it were, a vessel in which God is conveying all this to us. We are communing with Him through these blessings, through these gifts, which were given to us forever, so long ago, and are continually being given to us this moment and every moment. Right within that little cup of our hands, the blessings pour forth. They are there in such abundance, in an abundance that we can't even imagine. Given over and over and over again, given constantly to us. God's love conveys every good into our present experiences, into our future experiences. His love is the avenue through which every good has already been given. And right now, we accept. We give thanks. Mentally, we hold it to our hearts and feel the blessings fill us. That communion, that union with God makes all this good possible. Right now, and in the days to come, let's remember the blessings that have already been given and are being given constantly. Blessing upon blessing. We feel it. We accept it. we give thanks for that infinite, eternal connection with God. And finally we say, thank you, beloved Father. Amen.
Now's the time in our service where we give back some of our earthly treasure. I would invite you to say the blessings of the gifts if you know them. For those of them on the internet, just understand and listen to the words and feel it in your heart. Today, I acknowledge God, omnipresent, as the source of all good, as the source of my good. With this acknowledgement, I accept His will, which is abundance in every aspect of my life. I release all thoughts of lack and limitation, and I am open and receptive to the increased flow of abundance to me right now. I joyfully accept the gifts of life and give freely of the special gift that I am. Through me, God omnipresent blesses and multiplies this gift for all. Thank you, dear God. We've had a wonderful service today. I hope it's deepened your understanding of Easter Sunday a bit, and I hope it's lifted your heart a bit, and I hope it's calmed some fears or worries that you've had. And then in closing, I want to say just this. I noticed about 7 or 10 days ago, Queen Elizabeth was addressing the United Kingdom. And she made reference to this verse that I thought was very interesting. She said, "We will meet again. We will meet again." And that verse comes from a World War I song that was sung in 1918. And just a couple of verses struck me. They were very, very beautiful. Saying goodbye to someone helps birth a tear. Saying hello to someone births a smile. And I want you to know we will meet again, and we will all be saying hello. Thank you for joining us today. Go with God's love, God's light. Amen.